Hi, we're Bob and Kelly Parr with Freedom Quest International, and we want to invite you into our home.
Thanks for joining us.
One of the things we wanted to talk to you guys about is the presence of God, and Kel and I were just discussing this a little bit ago.
What was the word you were using?
Well, I was recalling a wedding that I'd done a year and a half or so ago, and part of the wedding ceremony that ministers have to do is the invocation. And the invocation is a time when you invite the presence of God into that place because you're getting ready to lead a couple or join a couple into holy matrimony. And so that invocation is really what Jesus was talking about in John 17 when he was in the prayer. It says he's praying to his Father.
17 verse.
John 17 verse 6. Jesus is praying to his Father. And he says, I have manifested your name to the men whom you have given me out of the world. Now, so Jesus came and he manifested, he invoked the presence of his Father to those people. And I think it's interesting, Ed Pioric in his book, Father Loves You, talks about how it's in our weakness that Father's love finds us. And every weakness that we have, every time we get ourselves into fear, into anxiety, into worry, into disbelief, God is always the solution. And the reason Jesus manifested his Father's name is because his Father's name is always the solution. So when we can invoke the presence of God, we invite the presence of God, he'll pour out his love on us and touch us right where we need to be touched.
And I think of how do we express that, with the people throughout our lives, just like today. We've come in contact with different people. The first ones are, of course, your family. Mm-hmm. And how have we expressed that love? How have we invoked God's presence in our home? What are we invoking in our home? What would be some other things that we could invoke in our home?
Well, oftentimes, I know, when we're, myself, personally, I can just use me for an example. Oftentimes in the past, what I've done, when I found myself in a time of weakness or a time of pain, I've invoked the wrong spirit, which would be drugs or alcohol, or I've invoked, say, pornography, trying to get a need met through the wrong source. And it's really a distortion of what God's plan was.
Just like we always teach, as pain, emotional pain, always seeks comfort. And so when we in 2 Corinthians, we've talked about that before, he's the God of all comfort. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3, I believe, he's the God of all comfort. So what is it that we invoke other than he longs for us to invoke his presence in our lives and that we manifest that just like Jesus did to the world. Jesus said, to those whom you gave me, I manifested your name.
Yeah. The best time, too, I was just thinking about this just now while you were saying that. The best time of the day to invoke the presence of God is right when we're jumping out of bed, or even before we, there was one famous minister that had a teaching, I think he called it Good Morning, Holy Spirit, or something like that. But it's so true. If we want to start our day off by invoking the presence of God into our life, then we'll be filled up with the presence of God, and we can go out and do that. 2 Corinthians chapter 1.
With his presence.
We can comfort those with the comfort because we're full of the comfort that God has given us from the overflow of his love that we can minister to other people, our wives, our children, our peers, our bosses.
I like how you say, how your primary focus is to represent the Father's love, is to convince me, to convince your children.
Primary responsibility, is to convince our families. Yeah, we men and really parents and anyone in any type of a leadership position, if we want to be godly, our primary responsibility is to convince those that are around us or under us that we unconditionally love them. Yeah. And the only way that we can really unconditionally love people is if God's love and we've invoked his presence into our life, and then it pours out.
And then we can say, and we can close with this, Jesus said here in verse 8, "For I gave them the words you gave me, and they accepted them. They knew with certainty that I came from you."
With certainty.
So without a doubt.
Yeah.
Good word, babe.
That's a good word. Hey, we hope this has helped you. It certainly helped us as we process together. We're all on this quest for freedom, and I just love it.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.